I'm also recording. Well, what's up, guys? This is a special in the car episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode number 431.5. We haven't done a 0.5 in a while, but I'm Steve. I'm one of the co-hosts of the show, and as always, I'm joined in the car this time by...
Right.
Politics. John.
And yeah, we literally just got out of an advanced screening of Gladiator 2. And we are literally sitting in John's car, recording this on a mix of different recording devices, so hopefully the mix sounds good, or a little more authentic on the street.
Oh, yeah.
A little more ground.
Yeah.
You know, grounded.
NPR
like,
man on the street.
A field recording.
Yeah, field recording was what I was looking for.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just got out of the screening, and we thought this might be a fun 0.5. We haven't done this in a while. I think the last time was Ant-Man.
Yes.
Quantumania, or is that Quantumania?
Yeah, it was Quantumania.
Yeah.
It's amazing how, for me at least, it's like a bit of a blur. Some of those Marvel movies.
For sure.
Yeah.
But what's not a Marvel movie is Gladiator 2.
Or is it?
Well, tell me, Ronald, or is it?
Or is it?
Are you going to spoil this for audiences that haven't seen it yet, that this is actually a stealth Marvel movie?
Hello, Phase 7.
When they revealed at the end that the Gladiator was actually a Kang variant.
Ronald was on the floor.
He was on the floor.
We had to pick him up. Both of us.
Backdoor spinoff.
But then who picked us up, Steve? That's what I still don't know. It was dark in there.
And I couldn't tell. I just assumed. I'm assuming positive intent.
Yeah.
It was someone that.
I want to assume we picked each other up, even though I know that's physically impossible.
Wait, so was it you?
Let's just leave it. Let's leave it a mystery.
Yeah. It was quite a screening.
Yeah, it really was.
A drunk man walks into a movie theater.
That's how a joke starts, right?
we sat down the row from the Monster Squad on this.
I thought Frankenstein at one point.
Yeah, it was.
Well, then that one woman was clearly turning into a werewolf at one point.
Yeah. This is art!
We're all a little giddy, folks, because
God.
just down the aisle from us there were some real noisemakers throughout the movie. Like everything got a reaction. Did you notice that? Pretty much any Denzel Washington line, that guy went.
There were marks for it. They were in the bag at the start.
Definitely in the bag for it.
And then when she had a coughing fit that then resolved in a belch.
Wow. The relief felt in the whole row.
Right. We all felt
we
so
shared
relieved.
in that relief.
We applauded. We all applauded.
And there was a guy in the group that quite frequently made bathroom breaks, and we thought he was going to break his neck.
Yeah.
Just stumbling and fumbling.
Wobbly fella.
Yeah.
Wobbly fella.
Well, that's where the Frankenstein talk came in. He kind of stalked out mad.
They missed his row.
But, they were enjoying it. I mean, he really was laughing at nearly every line. So much so that it was sort of inappropriate,
Yeah.
Why are you... I don't think we were supposed... I think we were supposed to think Denzel was cool in kind of a badass way.
Sure.
I don't think we were supposed to have that
right.
reaction to everything he did.
I think a bit of that's a little contagious with Denzel, though.
Yeah.
It
I feel
is.
like even if it's unintentional, he's so cool. Even in a period Gladiator sword and sandal thing like this, it's like there are certain line deliveries, where it's like that's not really a funny chuckle line, but I think there are certain actors, even no matter how they deliver it, even though he's one of the greatest to do it, it's like you still are like, man, he's so cool.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, that was cool. Even if it's not a laugh like these guys were doing, we're talking about, it's like, I gotta admit, there was a couple lines and there was like, well played, Denzel.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool to see him in a big movie like this, photographed well and chewing up the scenery and spitting it out and literally, folks, he does that. If you haven't seen the movie, he starts chewing on the scenery. But
it's weird. The corner.
He's just so fun to watch in this. I mean, honestly, the big enjoyment of this movie, the big story was just that I was enjoying pretty much everything he did on screen. And I will say that mileage varied in terms of my full engagement level with other aspects of the movie. But that's a real ace in the hole for a movie like this to have, is a central performance by a character like that, that's in such able hands. And I will say this, for someone who has seen the movie, you might be able to predict the arc of this character, where he goes, what's going on. But the fact that this is in many ways kind of like Denzel's movie is it was kind of a welcome surprise to me, because I really did find him fun to watch. And the fact that he's not doing a supposedly authentic accent or whatever, it just kind of plays into the kind of classic Hollywood epic nature of this movie. Like I the costumes, the sets, the stunt choreography, everything.
fights,
What
everything.
made it fun to see this movie was how much of a big like classic movie it was, and Denzel is like the kind of star power that you need. Yeah,
He has like a thing about him that just feels very. He could just kind of jumps off the screen. He's witty. He's sharp. And then anybody that's in a scene with him, he elevates, and they kind of go hand in hand. I kind of wish I saw more Pedro Pascal and Denzel scenes.
yeah.
There were none, right? Like I felt like there were none where they were directly talking to each other.
Yeah, they're sitting in front of one another.
Yeah. So that was a miss in my eyes. But I mean, I have to say this off the top. Gladiator 1, this is not. I mean, and that's not a knock on this movie. It's
Don't bury the lead. What did you call this walking out of the theater?
I call it, what did I say, the Netflix? It's like a...
Well, first you said, I mean, this is not speaking to your really review of the movie, but you had said at one point, I would show this to people who don't like good movies. And I was like, I don't think that's what you meant to say. And then you were like, actually, what I meant to say was like, if Netflix made Gladiator, it would be this movie. That's not representative of this film. I don't know that I agree with that, but I love the comment.
No, I honestly think that they need to refigure their ad campaign and show this movie to people that don't like good movies.
No, it just is a lot. If you're expecting this to be on the same quality level as the first one, I think you're getting something a little more fast paced, a little more whimsical, a little more less serious. I don't think you get all those things in the first one. And this feels like just a lot more palatable. Like I feel like
that was the key word you were using a lot.
Yeah.
The palatable nature.
Yeah, there's something to things that are just easier to digest.
Sure.
You know, if you saw the first one and you're like, man, I hope this picks up after this. It really picks up. I mean, the pacing of it.
That's the key.
It's almost maybe frantic. I'd say.
It is, yeah. That's a criticism though too, because I think I said it walking out. I think you maybe agree with me, but like, it moves so quickly, and that does make it more powerful. Like, starts with a battle. 10 minutes gone by. Oh, there's another battle. 10 minutes. Oh, somebody's dead. You know, like it has like that movement to it that like they know that you don't want to lose the audience.
Yes.
It's got to be something that keeps them into the movie, even if it's not plot dependent or really even character dependent, which is something that the first Gladiator
was very heavy on.
Yeah, it didn't rely on the pacing as much as like this does to kind of keep your interest as opposed to moving the movie along. But
it moves so fast that it didn't even have like the tropes of these movies. Like there was no orgies, there was no extra. It moved so fast.
Well, it was like hard R in the violence sense, but not in the sex and nudity sense, which may have been a calculated thing. Yeah. I wonder if nowadays, like audiences are seen as being more accepting of the violence than they are of sexuality on screen. I mean, I just don't think you see as much like. It's just not as much. It used to be a guarantee.
Yeah,
if a movie was R-rated, you were going to see something.
Yeah.
You aren't getting to Caligula in 2024.
Right, now all those perverts have to find other films. I think that's an interesting point, Steve, about like the kind of pacing, because I really do think the way this movie gets us into like a sea battle within minutes, I honestly loved.
Yeah, me too.
But I do think that it was sort of relentless from that moment in a way that was not a knock, but just... It made the sort of back end of the movie where it's a little bit more slow and compared to that in sense of like, for one thing, it's like every 15, 20 minutes a recognizable character dies to the point where at the end you're like, oh wow, who's left for me to care about?
Yeah.
But I just feel like, and I don't think Paul Mescal is like, or Mescal, or how do we say his name? Mescal?
Paul Mescal.
Mescal. I think he's solid for this kind of thing, and he definitely has like the profile of like a Roman, like a statue. You know what I mean? Of a Roman warrior. Yeah. But I don't know, when you've got him in a movie with people like Pedro Pascal and Denzel and even the guys playing the emperors, I feel like he's a little bit of a dry kind of character compared to the others. And I don't know, maybe if I watched Gladiator again, I would find that Russell Crowe was in a dry mode in that. But I don't know. I feel there was a potency to that character. Whereas, and again, I don't know what Paul Mescal could have done, because he looks the part. He's a good actor. It's just there was something about that character that was almost like he was so maybe his moral simplicity or his righteousness or something made him a little bit less interesting to me than the characters around him. And I think that's a thing that I was noticing was all that excitement from the beginning, and then once we're down to like what he's going to do, that felt much more like, oh, I kind of know what this guy's arc is. I kind of know what story his character is going to be involved in. Whereas these other characters, all the backstabbing, all the politics, I found that a little bit more engaging just because it was like, oh, all these, they're also nasty and evil. And also, you know, there's a monkey. I'm not going to say anything, folks, but just track the monkey. Maybe after this, after you've seen it, come and, you know, shoot us an email or something. What do you think happened to the monkey after this film? Because the monkey's actually in a very important position at the end of the film that's not addressed
at all.
Yeah, the points about Paul are interesting because, like, you talked earlier, Ronald, about the Denzel factor, and, like, you know, granted, he's like one of the biggest stars ever. But I think that's a key conversation when I watch this movie. Like, a lot of what's happening with Paul in the movie and his character, it moves so quick, and there are like character turns, character development that happens that really isn't earned in the movie. You know, changes of heart, changes of motivation that aren't really there. That I feel like a star maybe sells easier than he does.
That's a good point.
Because I'm watching Denzel, and honestly, I'm even watching Pedro Pascal, and I'm like, they're stars. I'm convinced of it. And I love Paul Mescal. I mean, he's a great actor.
Yeah, I have nothing against him.
And I think he's got an amazing future. Even, like, you know, Joseph Quinn and Fred Hechinger, to the two emperors.
They seem to be having so much fun.
They're so great.
Especially Fred Hechinger.
They're great actors, no doubt.
Is it Hechinger or Hechinger?
Hechinger? Hechinger? Like the I always see it as, I think, hardware store, the Baltimore area.
Well, it's weird that he came out with a tool belt and a, like,
it was
a tape
very
measure.
odd. There's a lot of nails, you know.
Asking if he could have some work somewhere. It's like,
It's like,
I thought he was asking if he
catches on shit.
if he could help me find something, and I pretended to know where I was.
What aisle it was
like
in?
I was like, no, I'm fine. And then the second he walked away, I was like, I should have asked that guy.
There's like a point where I was thinking, after, this is not a spoiler, but I was like, this is the most elaborate episode of Undercover Boss that I've ever seen in my life.
It's weird.
It's very
Especially
weird.
because the company went under like decades ago.
Right.
It's like he's trying to bring it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, the point about like these, and we talk about it a lot, especially me. I bring it up a lot because I'm so intrigued by like this notion of a star. Like what the modern star is,
Right.
Or who we're told are supposed to be stars.
Like who opens movies, but also who audiences view in that way.
I don't think. I mean, there's definitely a demographic and like a selection of the movie-going public definitely knows who Paul Mescal is and likes him.
Yeah.
You know, normal people. And he was in, what was that really great movie, the indie film he was in at the end of 2022, where he played the father, After Sun.
After Sun.
Incredible.
Oh my God.
Like, he's a great actor. I'm not taking anything away from him. But there's just a real vibe that, like, he, like you said, he looks it, I buy it.
Yeah.
But, like, is he at that level where he's that guy right now?
Yeah.
Especially when you put him in a movie where he shares a lot of scenes, very crucial scenes, with Pedro and with Denzel. Specifically Denzel. But even there's a very crucial scene in the movie that he has with Pedro that's all but a few minutes. But in that scene even, you're like, fuck, Pedro's a star.
Yeah.
And
what's that?
Well, and I will say this, too, about any of these characters, any of these actors. What you really feel is the energy change when one of those characters goes out in a movie like this, where you're like, oh, I guess I thought I was just on board for the story, but I really was enjoying the star power a little bit more than the story in some ways. And I think that's an interesting thing for a movie like this to make you realize, because clearly, I mean, Ridley Scott's a guy who works with actors at every level. So the fact that there's like a young up and comer in a movie, like everything about it feels right. It's just when I really think part of what we're saying is that Denzel is so potent.
Totally.
And then Pascal, like, he's at a place in his career where, like, he's not Denzel, but he's, like, audiences are on board for him.
And he's like a minor character in this movie, really.
Yeah,
like, he plays a big role in it, but he's a minor character.
Yeah, you're right.
But Denzel really is, like,
someone to watch.
Very high up in terms of screen time. Like, he is very pivotal.
Like, if I was in Rome at that point and I was, like, maybe a columnist or something, I'd say, this guy's one to watch.
Keep an eye on that guy.
Keep an eye on this guy. I was thinking when I was watching it that it reminded me of, what's that space movie that was supposed to blow that guy up? It was a Disney
John Carter.
movie. John Carter. Remember the way
Taylor
that they were
Kitsch.
trying to
Like Taylor
make
Kitsch was supposed to have the moment. Yeah.
and
They
this
were
feels
trying to
like-
make Taylor Kitsch a thing.
Yeah, and this feels like one of those moments where Paul was supposed to be that person, and it's not to say that he was bad, man. He's an amazing, he's a very handsome man,
he's very good
very
in the movie.
charismatic. But you're right. There's like something about the dynamic in this movie. He feels like the last person on the call sheet, even though he was the
No, that's it.
That's even Connie Nielsen on the screen. Like you're like, wow, she's got something special.
Yeah,
you know?
she brings
like,
something.
Oh, and she's like in fucking Gladiator.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, like, and I carry in like I hold Gladiator in like masterpiece status. Like I love Gladiator, right? So like that even carries over for me to see her. And even the scenes that she, again, that's more of a minor character. She has a handful of scenes in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe this makes him a star. Maybe this is everything we're saying is like an afterthought if this movie's big and he becomes a star, and or any of the younger guys in the movie, like Joseph Quinn's going to be Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four, you know, and it's
I
just
just think about the fact we had 2 Fantastic Four people in it.
yeah. So it's like it's interesting that you have these like levels, and it's like modern versus legacy. And like star versus they're supposed to be a star.
Right.
And like I can't help but watch movies today and feel that way because it doesn't feel like there is a spark missing from something. It's not the performance, it's not the skill, but it's more of like just like that thing, like that it factor.
Yeah.
But a big tentpole like this when you are the headliner, and again, he's great in it. He's a very good actor. He's got a couple really great scenes in it actually that I thought he was amazing in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, like I thought this movie was super entertaining. We've all said it kind of moves at a clip for like a 2.5 hour movie. I didn't check my watch once or my phone once. Like it doesn't drag at all, really.
I don't think it dragged. I think the last half hour or so, I started to feel it get long, but I think that has to do with the economy of characters that we're talking about, where by the time we get towards the end, there's only a couple of things left to care about.
Resolve,
and yet the movie still has this kind of epic story it's trying to wrap up. And I think that's fine. That's a function of the story.
Yeah.
But I did feel like, okay, it felt a little, at 2.5 solid hours, it was a little long for me.
Yeah.
But again, I kind of agree with you that the entertainment value was there. And again, I'm easy. Give me a giant screen with some cool photography and there was a lot of CGI in this, but it was like it was a good mix of practical. It felt to me like a good mix of practical sets and locations and everything and CGI. And if you are interested in what did the R rating thing say? Strong bloody violence.
Yeah.
If you like strong bloody violence,
strong and
I mean,
bloody.
honestly, I almost feel like the movie kind of shoots its wad early. The most exciting fight I thought was that baboon fight, which is like the first thing we get. But that was great, and that had character and humor. And even after that, like honestly, think about the fact that if the movie had kept up that level of character and humor around Paul Mescal's character. By the time we got to the end, we would be loving him.
Absolutely agree.
It's almost like the movie dropped that fun thread that he's the guy who everybody knows bit the monkey.
Yes.
And they all kind of tease him about it. I thought at that moment in the movie, we were going to get throughout the movie people calling him the monkey man and making monkey noises and stuff. And again, I feel like that's the kind of spark of character that we're talking about that gives him a kind of roguish charm rather than a solid heroic figure who's kind of just too serious to be fun in a strange way. And maybe that's where Denzel gets to be a little more free. He didn't have to be serious. He got to be kind of campy almost. Well, let's talk about this before we wrap it up as just like where it fits in with the kind of legacy sequel trend. I almost feel like this movie is more of a classic true sequel in that it's so far after the original. It's that kind of Gladiator, that name means something. So just putting a 2 after it has a certain kind of like, are you going to watch the trailer? Are you going to look at the poster? What's going on here? But I don't know. Where do you guys feel it fits in? Like, do you think it kind of earns its place to be as its own kind of movie, or even if it's a rehash? This is 24 years since the original. So like, where does this sit compared to some of the other, the recent trend we've seen of everything gets a sequel?
Oh boy. It's weird because like I like this movie a lot, and I'm probably gonna buy it when it comes out. I'm probably gonna watch it a couple more times.
This feels like a good home theater movie, like the kind you like to.
I was gonna say one thing I wanted to say that the sound was kind of shitty in a movie theater. Like I didn't feel a thud when anything happened.
You felt the thud when that guy ran into.
I felt the thud when that guy was gonna fall on the steps and break his fucking back. But aside from that, like it didn't have the thump that I felt when I was watching Gladiator. Fun fact, I didn't see Gladiator when it first came out. Aaron kind of was the one that convinced me to watch it. And I loved it. It just is a great film. The problem is that one was made with such care, such love, and you feel it. This one was too, but it felt like it was a different kind of movie. This again feels a little more palatable to everybody. Like I'd show this movie like to a group of people. Like you like, oh, there's sharks, there's monkeys. It's a crazy ass movie.
I did like that this one pulled out all the stops of anything crazy you ever have heard of that happened in a gladiatorial coliseum.
Anything.
Like the sea battles, they did used to fill them up with water and have actual sea battles with sharks and shit. That stuff was fun to see. And I love the idea that they gave us the one like bald baboon just so we could see how disturbing.
He's the crazy ass one too.
Yeah, right.
And you take him out. You take him out, all the other baboons back off.
Right, he's an example to all the other baboons. No, you're right though, Ronald. This was like kind of going for it in terms of like maybe trying to grab just anybody.
Yeah,
maybe there's a certain hungering for spectacle though that we all are a little bit involved in right now because the spectacle got so samey for a while with these big franchise movies and fantasy films and comic book movies and stuff that it is just kind of fun. Where I think this sits is like it's fun to see a movie like this. If we're going to see big franchise sequels, I like to see this one, mixed in with the thing we've been getting for years here.
Yeah, I think it holds up pretty well, like in terms of the legacy conversation or sequels, whether it's 24 years later or just sequels that have a bit of time between them. I mean, I think it's pretty up there. I think it's a different kind of movie, like Ronald's kind of getting at, than Gladiator. It definitely is in the same conversation. It has a similar vibe, but it moves a little quicker. It's a little more efficient. It's a little more slick. Ridley in his in this run is making some slick films, and I mean, not that he's not known for that look, but it definitely moves way different than Gladiator does.
Yeah, sure.
But quality-wise, performance-wise, spectacle-wise, I mean, they're in a similar conversation, and that can't be said for a lot of legacy sequels.
Right.
And it really does, like you said, John, it does feel just like, oh, this is just it's right after Gladiator. Yeah. Time is the only difference. You know what I'm saying? And some of these legacy sequels, like, they feel so out of place, out of touch. They have a different vibe to them. They have just a different like overall tone even in some of the cases. But like this one, the only thing that separates them is time and a little bit of a different pacing and like kind of look to the blockbuster feel. But again, you're talking 24 years later. A blockbuster now is different than one was in 2000.
Yeah.
You need to make them a little different for today's audience, and I think this movie definitely is catering more to what mainstream moviegoers probably look for in a blockbuster.
Yeah, it's funny mentioning that time gap. I remember when I saw the first one, I think it may have been the first, if not one of the first movies that I watched after moving to Baltimore. I remember going to see it at White Marsh, at the Avenue, and coming out and being like, I just have that memory of being like, oh, that was a great movie, and I'm in this new place, and I'm trying to figure out, is this my movie theater?
Right.
Like, because Nikki was here for about 6 months before I came, and so there was also that thing of like, she and I were going out and doing something together, and I was like, oh, White Marsh, what is this area, and like, where you don't know what the fuck you're doing yet, and it's like, you don't know what's cool and where to go, and I remember at the time saying, oh man, my inner 10-year-old is pleased, and at the time, that was a strange thing to say for me. But now I realize that we've just gotten off of like a decade or more of movies where the big budget tentpole movies have been for that inner 10-year-old.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's funny how like now this movie feels a little bit more like, oh, this is like more of an old-fashioned. It's not my inner 10-year-old. It's just my cinema lover that loves to see this kind of movie. But because my inner 10-year-old has been super indulged the last several years with all the comic book and Star Wars and all that stuff.
Old school tempo, man.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It was like old school tempo.
Sword and sandal epic, like the kind they used to make in some ways. Right.
Yeah, there's nothing that they're selling that this movie is not, I'll say.
Right.
Yeah. Like if you watch the trailer or you're a fan of Gladiator or any of the characters involved, the actors, actresses, like nothing that you could go into this movie thinking it is that movie.
Yeah.
It's entertaining, it's big, it's maybe not so loud in our screening, but I'm sure it's a loud movie.
Yeah.
And it's entertaining, man. Like, there's a lot to love. And again, top of this episode, we start with Denzel, and just to bookend it, like, I mean, you can't go wrong, man.
Really
Denzel is one of the most reliable stars we still have, and hopefully the box office reflects that. And it's got a lot of competition this holiday season and through the corridor to the end of the year, but hopefully it's, finds an audience.
I think it was a real gamble to have him sing Gravity right at the end of the film.
It's like weird timing, defying gravity. I mean, he hits the note. I mean, go. But
that's called Defying Gravity. I think my joke would have worked better if I knew the name of the song.
That's why we're in this together.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a team effort.
Hashtag teamwork.
Teamwork makes the jokes work.
Yeah. But yeah, Denzel is like, you just walk out like, man.
Yeah.
You can't oversell that feeling. Like, he's a fucking star.
And you see why he wants to do it, because he gets to wear all this flashy jewelry and wear these, kind of like flamboyant clothes. Again, it's a different thing that we've seen from him. So
I love him. He's great in it. But yeah, I mean, definitely go see this movie, in my opinion. Like, if you like this kind of film trailer, again, if anything has enticed you to this film, it is surely that movie. The reviews have been very good. Audiences seem to really be enjoying the movie. And, Paramount's kind of going full tilt, making sure people know it's there. So, if you're, you'll have options for a few weeks into the new year even. Yeah. So, if this is your thing, or Wicked, or Moana, or anything else coming out, Nosferatu, there's a lot of great movies coming, but you'll have time to see them all, hopefully. And we say go to the movies and see them all if you have an interest. But this one specifically, we just saw it, and we all thought it was a lot of fun still.
And and if anybody's listening and you came out of the Egyptian at Arundel Mills Mall on the night of Tuesday, November 19th, and you saw a fogged up car with a bunch of guys moving around, gesticulating wildly, they weren't.
It's exactly what you thought it was.
You know what? If you thought those guys were making a podcast, it's exactly what you thought it was. Anything else, you were wrong.
How dare you?
We're married. Yeah. We're fathers.
Fathers of daughters and sons of sons and daughters. Yeah, that'll do it, I think. That's a fun, right out of the theater. Movieschmovie.com is the website. We'll have another episode next week, our Schminksgiving episode of all the great things we're thankful for. Again, movieschmovie.com. If you want to subscribe to the audio podcast, youtube.com/movieschmovie podcast. If you want the video element, which this one's going to be a mystery, and we're going to see what Ronald throws together with this magic hands of his.
Yeah.
But that's always there if you want to go to YouTube and subscribe. We'd love to have you either way. As always, thank you so much for listening. You made our day. Thanks.
Oh, bye. Hold on, guys. Real quick. I wanted to
Ronald,
say this.
You just said bye.
Look, man, there's an addendum, a quick addendum.
And you sound a lot better right now. It's weird.
The podcast...
the quality sound of your voice is so much better.
Yeah, something happened with the quality, too, but the podcast has to be a tag at the end if we're feeling cute that week. But, I mean, come on. What are you doing here?
Yeah, man, I'm sorry. I apologize. I did want to talk about one thing that I forgot to talk about, and that is Wicked, man. I had the pleasure of seeing Wicked the same week. I gotta tell you, I am now Glicked, and I want to talk about how much I enjoyed that movie, man.
You're all glicked up.
All glicked up. So John M. Chu, director of Crazy Rich Asians, G.I. Joe Retaliation, and In the Heights. In the Heights and Crazy Rich Asians, two of my favorite movies in the last couple of years. Very good movies. This man took the mantle on of a musical that many believed couldn't translate the film in a lot of ways, just because of, the music element of it. And musicals don't always work as film translations. And I got to tell you, man, this is one of those ones that feels like, we talked about old Hollywood and the way that Gladiator felt. I don't think I've really seen anything in the last couple of years that really felt the way that, honestly, Gladiator felt and the way that this movie felt. Like tangible sets, incredible performances by Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, and some amazing backup performances by, Michelle Yeoh and Jeff Goldblum and Jonathan Bailey. This movie is a masterpiece. Like, I cried. Like, I don't even know Wicked. Like, I know Popular, and I realized that I only know this song. I didn't even know it was attached to Wicked. Kristen Chenoweth sang it. I didn't know that it was attached to Wicked. Never seen the musical. So I came in blind, man, and I was blown away by the dynamic between Ariana Grande is a spectacle, man. Like she's doing something on the screen that's like she has the comedic timing of like Jim Carrey. Like it's like she's doing something out of this world in this movie. And and then completely opposite is Cynthia Erivo, who's like very composed and a lot of sadness in her eyes, doing a lot of face acting, you know. Um, two effortlessly beautiful voices, and it just all in this landscape of these like tangible sets, man. Like it's something about seeing something real. I mean, especially if we're just off the heels of the Tim Burton produced Wizard of Oz movies that happened a couple years ago that felt like CGI fest. And this, with the exception of a couple animals, was all practical. Everything from the trains to the books and everything, the buildings behind it were all very real. So you feel it. Like it feels like you're watching a thing. The thing like just felt very like, oh, this is real thing. Real things are happening in this scene.
Right. Right.
And the dance routines, like everything didn't work for me, but enough worked for me for this to be a goddamn masterpiece. It was long. Some of the musical numbers weren't perfect, but Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are. This is career making stuff. I mean, it sounds weird.
I hope they find careers finally.
Here's what's crazy. These are already established. I mean, Cynthia almost has an EGOT, and it still feels like this will be a career making movie. Like their careers as actresses are about to take on something different now. Like they've kind of this is going to put them in like a legendary status now. You can feel like Universal's going to start making parks out of this stuff. She University, that the section that they show in the movie. This just feels like something that works on all levels. Like I feel like It is clicking, and it feels like a nod to consumerism in a way, but also like old Hollywood and movie stars. Okay, God damn it, we talked about this thing where like we were watching a movie where everybody didn't feel like a movie star. I gotta tell you, man, Cynthia and Ariana are superstars. Like
you can shorten her name and call her Ariana.
I was gonna say Ariana Grande, but yeah, these are stars. These are stars that are stealing every scene that they're in, and just like this, and it doesn't feel like they're trying to outdo each other in the scene. Right. And in the last scene, come on, man, like Defying Gravity, I cried like a baby. There's this portion,
or just Gravity, as the cool people just call that song Gravity.
Yeah. I like Gravity. I like
it's good music
as interpreted by John.
No, okay, there's a few things as interpreted by me, not knowing the name of the song.
Yeah.
No, that at least shows I can remember what we recorded when we recorded in the car. Like that's like 2 whole nights ago. You don't understand what an achievement that is for me.
Yeah.
No, Ronald, I'm glad you mentioned the old Hollywood thing, because as you were saying what you liked about this movie, it started to sound like what we said about Gladiator 2, which is like you just like to see the spectacle of a certain sort, and you do like to see stars involved in that. But you commented about Cynthia Erivo's face acting. And my brain went in a couple of different ways. One is, are there different actors who do different acting? Like, can you think of somebody that does like shoulder acting or stomach acting? And then otherwise, I was going to say like, who is not a face actor? Because I'm kind of teasing you, but I also think there's something to be said for that. Because once I started thinking about the question, it's like, wait a minute, that's not just a joke. Some people really are face actors, and some people really
I feel
are
like
not.
let's say John David Washington is more of a voice actor. Like he's like more of like I'm telling you, I don't know what you're talking about. Like he does a lot of that, like not a lot of face going on, but a lot of yelling. And Nick Cage mentions a lot of faces, but he's more voice to me than face. But he does have some incredible faces. There's some memes of him. But when I think about some of the moments where I'm thinking about, oh man, it's always his voice. It's always his voice, never his face. Always his voice.
See, I'm going to be looking for this now. Like, oh wait a minute, what kind of actor are they?
What kind of actor is? Yeah. Is this a goddamn face actor?
Is this another one of these fucking face actors?
No, but seriously, man, like she's doing a lot of like, I think that some people feel like they have to like, I am sad, and Cynthia's just showing it, it's just,
And it seems like there might be a soulfulness or something. Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, you were breaking up for me. I don't know. I was waiting for the signal to catch up. Was Ronald breaking up for you, Steve?
I didn't see him break up. I just saw him stop talking. It sounded like you talked, John.
I felt like
and
he froze.
stopped.
Anyway, who knows what is going to be going on with that audio? I always think probably your local audio that you're getting a view is better.
Oh, right.
But the audio I'm getting is coming through Zoom. All hail Zoom. Zoom, our friend, who does what we want it to do. No, everything I'm hearing about this movie, there's a few dissenting voices I've heard that have said, no, it's terrible. But a few people that I listen to have said, no, this is exactly what you're saying, like a big Hollywood spectacle. I'm not that interested in it.
I get that.
Be carried away by the kind of scope that you're talking about, Ronald, because I do think that is something that I've come to appreciate in movies nowadays, is some sense of like, what are they actually giving you? Is there actual talent on the screen? Are there people doing things that not anyone could do?
Are they face acting? Are they butt acting? Or are they arm acting?
I mean, butt acting, elbow acting. I'm into it all.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Ankle acting.
Not so much. Not so much.
All right, so that's Wicked.
Yeah.
Wicked. Is it Wicked?
Wicked.
It's a Wicked pissa.
Wicked. Cool.